Thank you. Thank you for joining me for the 21 Things You May Not Know About the Indian Act virtual pilgrimage. Today we're on number 13, the 13th thing, and it's a part of the fourth section of the book. And the fourth section of the book is entitled, for Bob Joseph, he's entitled it, They, in quotes, They Rose Against Us. It has that feeling of, after everything we did for them, they rose against us. I'm the Reverend John Borthwick, and I've been encouraging my congregation here at St. Andrew's in Guelph to join me on this journey through 21 Things You May Not Know About the Indian Act. It's a thing that I've done with another book, and have tried to help people to sort of immerse themselves in a book that is talking about things that maybe they've not experienced before, or they have a little bit of experience but haven't really engaged with material deeply. I did it with the Me and White Supremacy book by Layla Saad, this kind of virtual pilgrimage. So each week I encourage people to read the book, get the book from your local bookstore, and then read a chapter at a time. Go slow and watch this little reflection that I offer. I try to give you some highlights. I do make some assumptions. I make some assumptions that for some people, they're not going to pick up the book, and that's okay. If you don't pick up the book, I understand. But at least hopefully watching this short reflection by me will give you just a couple of highlights. Maybe will encourage you to read the book, or maybe will encourage you to think a little differently, look at things a little differently, and engage with this serious and significantly impactful conversation around the Indian Act, and certainly around how the Indigenous community has experienced life in Canada since colonization. I'm hopeful that will take you on a path of learning and then a desire to take action in some way. So today, it's number 13, Forbade Indian Students from Speaking Their Home Languages. And so a big theme of this book, a big theme of what we're trying to unpack here, that Bob Joseph is skillfully laying before us in a very, very simple and accessible way, is that the things that were done, that were legislated or put into practice or policy, they were done with intention. It wasn't that people didn't realize what they were doing, or just thought it was okay to do this and had no idea of the impact. Number 13 is Forbade Indian Students from Speaking Their Home Language. And they did this with intention. They did it because they wanted to perpetrate what we now call cultural genocide, in the way of saying they wanted to eliminate everything that made those individual children who they were, from their family of origin and from their ancestry and everything. They wanted to erase it all with intention. And so it's hard to read. Maybe you've already heard some of this before, but children were punished for speaking their own language. Some of them were absolutely brutal, the kinds of punishments that they would do. It wasn't just as simple as washing a child's mouth out with soap, but there were some very, very horrible things that teachers and leaders of these institutions did to children who simply spoke the language that they were taught. And so Bob also raises up how this impacted their engagement with their home when they had the chance, rare that it was, but when they had the chance to return home and would be surrounded again by that language that was the language that they spoke at home, but they would be essentially scared to speak their own language with their family systems again. So then this became a problem where within their family systems, they didn't feel at home anymore, and they actually were scared to think or to speak in that original language again. Now, he does offer this because of this action. And this is, again, the other theme that we want to pull out, that because of these intentional actions, there are impacts. Now, not only the generational impact of anybody who was forced to go to residential school, and for these kind of acts of being punished for speaking your own language, but more than that, he quotes here that in 1996, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization declared that Canada's Aboriginal languages were among the most endangered in the world. And to recognize the impact of that, to lose one's language, when your language is the way in which you engage, the way in which you tell the stories that are important to you, your value systems, your spiritual life, your songs, your everything. That's not something that you can ever get back. Another theme of the book, though, the incredible resilience and strength of the Indigenous community to continue to teach, to learn, to strive, to reclaim their language in all the spaces they occupy. So often we're sometimes, those who look like me, are sometimes led to a kind of pity in our desire to be compassionate and empathetic, but it moves towards almost a pity of the poor Indigenous community. But we also need to remember and be mindful of the ways in which, even with the intentionality, the systemic, the brutal governmental system of Canada coming down on the Indigenous community for over a century, and putting in restrictions, preventing this, that, or the other, these things are not completely lost. And that speaks to the resilience and the strength and the courage of a community and ancestors who fought, who have tried, who have maintained, who have taught, elders who have held dear those important things. We mustn't lose that as a part of any conversation about this and about the Indian Act and its 21 things that you may not know. That's number 13.